Hello guys, I'm Fisi and welcome back to the ARL Xbox 360 F1 2013 League. This is round 4 of the championship in Bahrain, a race that was very interesting last season in season 6 and where I managed to score my first points of that particular season. But this season I already have 15 points in the bag, so hopefully I can keep my point scoring run going. As usual, of course, official race highlights for this race will be up later in the week. That is still in the process of being made as we speak. So this is my personal race recap for this race, showing my own highlights of the race. And as you might have seen on my qualifying lap video, I qualified in 8th place for this race. It was an extremely tight qualifying session actually, with the top 11 drivers separated by less than 0.8 of a second. So it looked like it was going to be another tough and competitive race in this league, as it usually is. So hopefully I could keep my head cool and pick up some points again for the 4th consecutive race. As the lights were coming on, I was a little bit nervous for this race actually, because I hadn't had time to do as much practice as I had done in the past. And as you can see, I have 3 of the quickest drivers on the grid ahead of me, with Monster, Matty and Randy all up there in 4th, 5th and 6th. And the reason I was now in 7th is because Krookie, who qualified 4th, had disconnected before we got out of the grid. But as you can see, it was a clean first corner, luckily for me and seemingly everyone around me as well. I just took it a little bit easy through the first corner, really just making sure that no one comes steaming up my inside, and I managed to maintain 7th place as Monster and Randy were having a bit of wheel banging ahead and change positions there. So I was just going to try to hang on to Monster and Randy for as long as possible throughout this first lap. As you can see on the proximity arrows there, Big Shot player not far behind either. There's still a massive train field very close together. As you can see, there's a group of 5 cars just inside each other pretty much ahead, as we were now approaching the most difficult corner on this whole track, turn 10 for the first time, where we brake and turn at the same time, and there's a little bit of contact up ahead. Monster has had a pretty bad exit. I've used a bit of curse to try and get alongside, but no point trying anything too aggressive, especially on a quicker driver, to be honest, at this stage of the race. So I've just held position behind Monster, and as his car had a bit of a lag wobble there going into that quick left-hander, but it seems back normal again now as the sun glaring in our face, coming towards the penultimate corner of the track. And the field's still incredibly close. Just look at the group of cars ahead, and Big Shot right up my gearbox as well. And this unfortunately was the time when I was going to lose focus for a tiny bit for the first time in this race. As you can see there, I braked a tiny bit too late and he tapped Monster in the back going into the final corner. I didn't really feel like I braked too late, but I clearly did, because I couldn't slow down in time. And I believe that lost Monster 1 place. Obviously apologized to him after the race and probably during the race as well. And as you saw, it lost me 3 positions. So I was very frustrated with myself at that particular moment in time. It's the first incident I can remember causing in a league race actually for quite a long time. So yeah, even though it wasn't a massive mistake, even such small mistakes really cost you when the field is as competitive as it is here. So I was down to 10th place, and as you can see ahead, my teammate TraceMe92 had a bit of an overstay moment there, and that allowed me to slip up the inside of him a few corners from the end of the lap on lap 2 to gain back one of those positions I lost, and ahead now the Force India for Jason97 F1. Both Trace and Jason obviously I battled with quite a bit in the previous race in China, and we seem pretty close on pace here again in this race, which was nice to see, as I just defended my position there on the start of lap 3 from my teammate. But then Big Shot player ahead in the Ferrari had a massive moment, just spun off to the side of the track and dropped back several places, meaning I was now back up to 8th place. And on lap 4 now, and unfortunately TRL Monster seemed to be struggling quite a bit after that little incident we had at the end of lap 1. He had dropped back from the group ahead, and I got passed by Jason as well. So it was not particularly going to plan for him, considering he's usually one of the front runners in the races in this league. And as the race developed, that last corner of the lap proved to be quite the troublesome spot for me, because I ran wider at the end of lap 4, and that allowed TraceMe92, my teammate, to get a very good run down the main straight. Obviously we both had DRS, but Trace had the inside line. He was alongside even before we opened DRS, meaning it was going to be difficult for me to defend the position as Trace dived up the inside. I tried to do the cutback and get a better exit, but then unfortunately I bogged down by tapping his his rear wing instead, which means that didn't work out, and Trace was now ahead. And that proved to be quite crucial, to be honest, because in his teammate relationship we have that the first driver obviously on the track, well, the driver who is ahead on the track out of the 2 of us will decide when he can pit, and that means he pitted at the end of lap 5, meaning that he got a bit of an undercut on me because I had to go in a lap later on lap 6, still right behind the Force India of Jason97 F1. And my pit crew did a good job at 3.195 second pit stop, pretty standard stuff, but it was better than the Force India crew could manage, because I managed to jump Jason in the pit lane for position, which was quite crucial. So now coming out of the pit lane, I just had to wait and see where my teammate was going to be, and ARL Monster as well, who was close with us before the pit stop, and there they were. Trace had actually got ahead of Monster, who then went completely wide, messed up that first corner, went wide onto the grass, and rejoined just ahead of me. I had to bog down a bit to make sure I didn't hit him, and as a result I didn't get a great run towards turn 4, and Jason as well, right behind. They were both looking up the inside, Monster just ahead, Jason right behind. But I managed to break it at the right place to, obviously Monster managed to stay ahead, but I made sure that Jason as well didn't get past me. But in the meantime of all this, my teammate had pulled out quite a bit of a gap ahead, so it hadn't completely worked out for either of us in this three-man group, to be honest. So down in 12th place at the moment, because a few cars hadn't pitted yet. There were a few cars who started on prime tires actually, who went longer on their first stint. And as you can see now, as we come down the main straight at the start of lap 8, there's one car in the pit lane, so I'm going to move up another position. Or was I going to move up 2 positions, up the inside of the ARL Monster into turn 1, a little bit wide, missed the apex slightly. Monster looking like it was going to get a better exit, but no, it didn't. So I moved myself ahead of Monster for the time being. Obviously one of the quickest, usually one of the quickest drivers in the league, with the help of the DRS mind. But then he did exactly the same to me on the next lap. With the help of DRS, he got the run and dived the inside of turn 1. And I didn't put too much of a fight on that occasion, to be honest, because I was confident that I would be able to keep up with him for the lap and get the DRS again on the next one. And in turn, hopefully pull myself closer to my teammate who was ahead of this battle. And I did indeed manage to keep up with Monster to get the DRS on the next lap, but that plan of passing him back went out the window when I had a massive lock-up on the final corner at the end of lap 9 and put me wide, and then put Jason ahead of me. And also put me under pressure from SE Racing Team just behind. Who actually making his return to F1 because TRL Schumacher had to pull out, so he moved up from the GP2 league ahead of this race, and is now having a go at me into turn 1, giving him room on the inside, trying to hold him around side, and my driver raising his hand because there was a tiny bit of contact but nothing serious, and SE unfortunately got the better exit. I managed to power through into what was currently 12th place. And then on the next lap, the last corner curse struck once again, another lock-up, this time on the outside front, which again sent me wide and lost me quite a bit of time to the cars ahead. And those 3 mistakes I'd had at that corner now had really compromised the race. And at this point I wasn't even that confident to score any points in the race, but fortunately on the next lap 2 cars were in the pit lane, the 2 drivers who had started the race on the prime tires and went longer, therefore making their first pit stop on lap 11. Meaning we're back up to P11, but now on the presser from the Sauber of the Continents. But I managed to defend from him, and on the next lap, SE Racing Team in the Caterham just casually spinning out there in the gravel, meaning I'd moved up another position. So I wasn't as far down as I had first fared after those mistakes, and still had a chance of some decent points in the race. In 9th place, obviously, as you can see in the top left, and now looking at 8th place as well, because Jason had a bit of a wobbly exit at the penultimate corner. I chose to stay behind him, going into the final corner, just to get the DRS on the straight instead of making a dive bomb into the final corner. And ahead there, you saw Random X Grandy, one of the guys who had been further up in the field earlier in the race. And but then he had been involved in an incident and then spun off and lost connection for some reason. And now I'm gaining another position right away, going up the inside of Jason into turn 1. Hitting the apex nice as well to make the move stick for 7th place. So obviously I was in 13th place and very worried of those mistakes, but now up to 7th again with a little bit of luck and a pass here on Jason as well. But Monster and Trace have pulled out a bit of gap as a result of all this, and they now went into the pit lane at the end of lap 16 as I had to defend from Jason again going into turn 1. Jason tried to make a move around the outside, braking later than me, but they went a bit too wide, compromising his exit and actually making for confidence to pass him going into the next corner. But at the end of the lap, me and Jason both went into the pit lane with confidence, carrying on for another lap, and I was hoping again for a Red Bull to make a good stop on at 3.2, pretty standard stuff again, to make sure we stayed ahead of the Force India driver. Obviously putting another set of the prime tires on, because this race is actually a 2-stop race, unlike the previous races in the season so far, which have all been 3-stoppers. So tire wear a bit better around here, meaning I did not have to stop for a 3rd time in the race. But as you see, Trace and Monster way down the road, although they lost a little bit of time in the next couple of laps by passing Callum and Macy, who were still out on worn tires and having not made their final stops yet. But unfortunately that was going to lose me a little bit of time now as well, as I was right on the back of Callum going into this difficult turn 10 Not really a place you want to make a desperate dive bomb overtake, but as you can see now, Callum and Macy obviously having their own battle, because they were on the same strategy and still battling each other for position in the overall race. And when we entered turn 11 on lap 20, tragedy struck as Macy went wide, had a bit of oversteer, hit Callum in the side, making Callum spin just in front of me, and nothing I could do to avoid it. I was just an innocent victim there, just getting thrown into the gravel, losing, I would say, maybe around 10 seconds. And obviously losing positions to both adjacent and continents as well. So obviously very frustrating to getting caught up in something like that, especially as the cars involved weren't really battling me in the race anyway, because they still had a pit stop left to do. But fair play to Mason, of course, for waiting and giving both me and Callum the places back, taking responsibility for his mistake there. But damage was done as far as my race was concerned. Jason and continents who I were battling with before the incident were now something like 7 seconds down the road, so and I still had to get past Callum as well, which I was now looking to do on the back straight with DRS and using a bit of curse as well just to make sure the move gets done. Pulling alongside him on the inside line, going into that corner where the incident happened, of course, on the previous lap, making the move stick there. Almost getting a bit of oversteer on the curb myself, but not enough to unsettle the car. So I was now up to 9th place with loads of clear air ahead. You can see the continents in 8th place, 6.4 seconds ahead at this point. And I did close the gap a little bit, going towards the end of the race, but not in there quick enough to be able to catch them. And you just saw a Ferrari there sitting in the wall. And then again on the next lap, Ryan's car just chilling out in the wall. It's a bit of a bug that has been happening after the patch was released on Xbox 360, where random cars in online lobbies just casually shows up at random places when they're not actually there. So really hope Codemasters can get that bug sorted out quite soon, because I know it's ruined a few races in other ARL leagues, which we don't want, of course. But as for this race, I came home then in 9th place after that unfortunate incident on lap 20. 24 seconds behind the winner, so actually closer to the winner there than I was in China last week, despite having that massive incident. So my pace wasn't that bad, I guess, but still a pretty disappointing result, really, considering how the race unfolded. If that incident hadn't happened, I'm pretty sure I would have been able to fight my teammate for 6th place, because he made a couple of mistakes towards the end of the race. But that's just what happens in racing sometimes. Sometimes you've got to bite the lemon and just move on from it. But as for the championship, that now means that Trace, my teammate, after finishing P6, has pulled out a 10-point gap in the standings, with Ricky C and TRL McAuley quite a bit ahead as well now, because they had very good races, as you're going to see in the main highlights when they come out. And speaking of the main highlights, they will hopefully be out in the next 2 or 3 days. I had to wait quite a while this week for a few drivers to upload their footage, but I'll be trying to get that finished for you guys as soon as possible. But that marks the end of this race recap. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave a like if you did, and I will see you guys next time for the Spanish Grand Prix. Goodbye.